think we're all set. Okay, so hello everyone. Sorry about the craziness last week. I've had some crazy things going on with our one of our rural immersion camps that we're starting as a pilot this year down in Anchorage, and I hope that all the hiccups and tumultuous rocky starts are done and we'll be okay. But I was in a location where I just didn't have access to go to meetings, so I wasn't able to get us going on our teleconference session. But I'm back in action today, so I wanted to start our session today with Project Framework 3. I think it was really helpful to talk about Project Framework 2 together last week. So in order to give you guys the same understanding of what I'm expecting for the last piece of the framework, the rough draft, I wanted to just start off by talking a little bit about that. I finished grading any Project Frameworks 2s that I have. They should all be graded right now, so if you didn't receive them last time you checked, you can check in again. I was up late last night grading, so you should have a copy with my comments to take a look at now as of today. And then the next step, so you composed your interview questions, you gave your interview, and now the next step is going to be creating your rough draft of your final project. So this is kind of the fun part where you get to kind of pull it all together. So as you can see in the Project 3 framework guidelines that I have up on the screen right now, there are a variety of formats that you can use for this. So you can kind of go traditional and just create a traditional PowerPoint presentation if that's what you're familiar with and comfortable with. Using the PowerPoint presentation to outline your elder's life and build those connections with concepts in the text throughout that PowerPoint presentation. Or you can create a video, and how you would do that, you can use footage from your interview if you had the ability to record it, or you can also use just photos, still photos, and kind of have still photos go through. You can use things like Microsoft Movie Maker. There's also iMovie if you have Apple products, that might be something you want to be looking at. And there's also free products online. There's things like Screencast-O-Matic where you can set up a slideshow and then record your voice over it. There's lots of different types of programs out there for you to use. I'd say go with something you're comfortable with, unless you want to kind of jump out into the deep end and try to take a swim and learn something new, which is fine as well. I can only speak to what I know, so I don't know if you do decide to dive off on the deep end. I don't know how comfortable I am with the product you might choose to use, so kind of keep that in mind. If you don't have tech support, it might be hard to try something new. The other thing that I am very familiar with, if you're not, you might want to try out is Prezi. It's like PowerPoint, but it's kind of got a different dimension, so your presentations zoom in and out of slides versus flipping from one stationary slide to the next. It's more of a three-dimensional feel to a presentation. So that's another option, and if you're interested in trying that out, I encourage you, and I actually know a lot more about that piece, so I can help troubleshoot for you. So really what you decide to do for your format is completely up to you, and I want you to have fun with it and be creative and use the format that you feel most comfortable with or that you want to try out. So once you identify how you're going to be presenting your project, the next piece is to really start talking to your elder about, if you haven't already started to, about different things that you can take pictures of, maybe a marriage certificate, a diploma that they have, a certificate that maybe they became a community health aide or behavioral health aide and they have that certificate that they have, or something from their career that they've used. Maybe they were published, an artist that was published, or a writer that was published, and they have that they like to look on, or they have some saved newspaper article that they were featured in over the years. Kind of use it as a time for them to actually share physical artifacts of their life with you, and then you can take a photo of it. Another option would be to scan copies of it if it's in a format that you can. You can ask them for photos of their lives for you to use in your project. You can use video clips from their life. It doesn't have to be a video clip that you took. If they give you the approval to use that, then that's fine as well. anything that it is that they created. I know, Laura, your elder creates wooden flutes. It would be beautiful to hear a clip of his music. It would be really nice to see, even a final product of something that he's carved, a photo of that. So try to think about how you can help us to know your elder and know their life history through what you decide to collect from them. And of course, you're just utilizing it, a photo of it or a piece of it, not going to be taking it forever, so kind of keep that in mind when you're talking to them. And then as you can see, I really always want you to pay close attention over here to the grading, because this is exactly what I look at when I go back and grade. I'm going to see, did they have artifacts from the elder's life that they used in their presentation? Did they cover concepts from the course? And did they think about key topics or theories or stages or theorists or discussions that we've had in class during some of our assignments? Really, whatever it is, I want to see that you're building connections between the examples and the stories that you're being told by your elder and the content of the course. You should also have your own thoughts and your reflections integrated throughout. So how did it make you feel to hear some of these stories? What were your reflections on what you're being told and how it relates to the course material? And then the final 5 points is really for the overall design. Was it engaging? Was it fun to watch? Was I bored out of my mind? Those kinds of things. If it was a good presentation, it was fun to watch, it was engaging, and I enjoyed it, you'll get those 5 points. But if you just kind of go with the run-of-the-mill, basic designed PowerPoint slides, there's no imagery, you're not excited about what you're saying, you're talking in a monotone voice, those kinds of things, you're not going to get those full 5 points. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm grading. With that being said, does anybody have any questions for me?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. I started kind of putting together the video that I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's the time limit?
So,
Because I'm doing this for my elder too. He's asked for his children to, can I have a copy of it so when I die I can pass this on to my kids? And they said, sure, that sounds really neat. But what I have is kind of long, so should it kind of be like a trailer? Like, what are you looking for time?
I would say...
And are we all going to watch them the last day, or are we going to see what other people do, or are you just going to view them?
We're all going to view them. We're going to be viewing them through GoToMeeting, right, the way this is set up right here on the last day. So that's why if it is a video, a YouTube link would be the best way to just share it. Then you won't have
or
any...
Vimeo? Can it be Vimeo?
It could be video, but a link to it, you would...
So no, Vimeo?
Oh yeah, Vimeo, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
As long as I have a link to get to that I can play it for everybody virtually on here and we can all see it, because I could share my screen. You see my screen right now, As long as I could do that, then we're fine. So whatever format you go with is completely fine with me, as long as we can share it so that everybody can view it. In terms of time, you don't want it to be too long, you don't want it to be too short. So since this is an elder, you're talking about their lifespan, I would go with about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to, you don't want to fly through it and go so quick that, 3 minutes would be too little. It's not a digital, it's not a digital story where it has to be really quickly done. Photos come up, like usually digital stories are between 1 and 3 minutes. I want it more than that because I want you guys building concepts, connections to concepts, which takes a little bit longer to do. If it was just about their story, 1 to 3 minutes would probably be more feasible. But since it's not, since it's more than that and it's involving more input and more academic kind of connections, I would really want you to make it at least 5 minutes as the minimum. But
you know what's hard? Can I say what's really hard about that? Everything he said was super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he talks about how he left the island, and it's like, what part of that do you pick to show? Because if you showed all of his little story and narration about that, that's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right there.
So that's why, remember in the beginning, we picked 5 lifespan milestones we wanted to focus on?
Mm-hmm.
Focus on those 5. So that gives
Okay.
you, that gives you really 1 to 2 minutes per milestone, which I think is good. But if you start to try to do the whole thing, you can go on for an hour. You can go on for more,
Oh, yeah, I know.
So make sure
Yeah.
you're making this, it's more like a trailer than a full-on documentary. If you want to do something more expansive for him, go for it. If you really feel the need
Yeah.
to expand, I think that's
and then
fine.
we're talking over it. I mean, we start with, okay, and then James was, he was a little boy,
Mhm.
and this relates to in the reading, and then it fades in with his voice.
Exactly. Perfect. That's
Okay.
one option of what you want to do. So what Laura is explaining is that she's going to be utilizing pictures and photos and different clips from her interview in a video format, and then she's going to just be sharing that video. The other option would be having a PowerPoint and you speaking, right? So you're just speaking on top of, presenting your PowerPoint presentation. That's also fine. That's quite
Okay.
all right too. So you guys have options. I don't want to kind of give you a stagnant, this is what you need to do, it has to fit these parameters. I want you to have some artistic freedom with it.
Okay.
I wanted to let you know that I'll be going to summer camp in Barrow, the behavioral health summer camp.
Okay.
And on the conference. And it's just be there until the 17th. And the 17th I'm going to Alabama,
Okay.
and I'll be there until the 25th. So I don't know if, I think that I'll be Alabama during the next meeting.
Right. So you'll miss, it looks like you'll miss our session for week 7, but you will be back in time to do your presentation on June 24th, right?
I'll be in Alabama the 25th. I'm leaving the 25th.
So you'll be in Alabama, but will you be able to participate in that presentation?
I'm not sure. It says that will be pretty busy throughout the duration of the summer camp.
Okay. Okay, so in that case, for you, it sounds to me like you're going to have to pre-record something. A live presentation's not going to cut it for you because otherwise I have nothing to grade for your final presentation. So for you, you can either do a voiceover. Have you ever done that with PowerPoint?
No.
So you can add narration to each slide. So what you would normally say during your presentation on slide 1, you would just record your voice saying it. And then there's a little button that I can click and it'll play your voice over that slide. So that's an option.
Okay.
If you feel comfortable with like something like iMovie or Movie Maker or any of Vimeo or any of those types of things, feel free to do something like that too. It's completely up to you. If you run into any problems, let me know.
Okay.
Say it again, Samantha.
How long would the presentation have to be if I created a voiceover with the presentation?
It's still the same, 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
So minimum of 5 minutes would be kind of like the bare bones minimum. But I also don't want you to go too much in depth that it's too long. So because we have to, everybody has to present, and we only have an hour. So I would make sure that we stay within that 5 to 10 minute limit. Okay?
Okay.
Any other project framework questions? Okay, awesome. So, considering that we didn't get to meet last week, I did have a couple of clips that I wanted to use for you guys to kind of get a better understanding of some of the concepts. One of the concepts that I thought was really a good discussion that we had last week in the discussion boards and the assignments was identity. So, I have a little clip here about identity formation and self-concept that I want to play for you, and then we'll discuss
A
it.
major challenge in the
Can everybody hear that?
development of self occurs during adolescence. The task of forming an identity. The attainment of a strong sense of identity is a process rather than a simple step on the path toward adulthood. The following adolescents, when asked what they have planned for their lives, illustrate significant individual differences in identity development.
I'm trying to achieve my goals, go to the league. I really want to just play that and get that one. All I want is one game in the NFL, just one. I don't care if I get hurt, anything.
I think I want to go pre-med. I think I want to study pre-medicine and eventually become a doctor. But at the same time, I want to spend a semester abroad. I want to do a semester-long community service project in some foreign country. I want to go on with those kind of foreign aid projects. I want to spend a semester here, spend a semester there, do this for a semester. I want to minor in law and major in something else. I want to get French. At the same time that I want to slow down and not rush myself, I want to be able to absorb much more so that I can, again, see what I like, see what I don't, and make better choices based on that.
Yes, actually, I've been thinking about it since I think I was 6, and I'm aiming to be on Broadway.
What are your thoughts? What comes into your mind when you start to think about what these responses were for these students? What do you think? Does it sound familiar, Samantha?
Yeah.
They're all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
When I first started applying to Mount Edgecombe, I started writing, we had to write of why we wanted to be accepted and what we do there and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it kind of reminds me of all the stuff that I wanted to do, like clubs and classes I wanted to take. And
Yeah, there's a lot, right? You have all these aspirations and you don't really know exactly where you're going to head because you haven't experienced it yet. So he's saying, you know, he wants to spend semesters abroad, he wants to do this and he wants to do that. Another kid just wants to only focus on the NFL or only focus on being on Broadway, right? And that's kind of the level of maturity of where we go. Some of us, it's like, when we were talking about the different stages, it's identity, achievement, like you've explored a little bit, you kind of have it all together and you know where you want to go and you decide. Then there's foreclosure where you're like, I just want to do this, and you never really explored. You just know that you want to do it, and maybe it's because your parents did it, or maybe it's just because you have this, you know, some experience in your early years that made you committed to that type of a path. And then there's moratorium where you're just like all over the place and you don't know what you want to do, but you really are actively exploring. And I always connected to that theory, to Marsha's stages, because I was there too, you know. I just feel like that's where we go when we're in that adolescent stage and early young adulthood. What do you think, Laura?
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I see it with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
1 week they want to go to this school and they want to do this, they're going to be a nurse, and then the next week they're going to be joining a circus and being the trapeze artist.
Yes,
Yeah.
all over the place.
Well, my daughter just told me today she's going to quit school, quit everything, and she's going to be a nanny.
Oh.
I said no.
Okay. Where did that one come from, right? You don't even know where they're coming from. This next one's on cultural identity, which is particularly important to minorities.
Are there cultural differences in the way people experience and express emotion? Anthropologists have suggested that people from Western cultures may be more emotionally expressive than those from Eastern cultures.
Well, to be honest, I haven't thought a whole lot about it, but as I think about it, I don't really think it would be that different.
Yes. For the most part, Korean people don't smile. Yeah, especially emotions in what I feel the American culture would consider good. They'd want to keep hidden.
I think it really depends on how long you've been here. My family, we're from Taiwan, so we're actually a little more reserved. Whereas as I grew up here, so I think I've been kind of Americanized in the way I express things.
Psychologist Jeannie Tsai says culture does shape how we think, feel, and behave, but her research on feelings suggests that the relationship between culture and emotion is complex.
Culture seems to shape how we express our emotions on our faces, as well as how we talk about our emotions when we're in the throes of an emotional event. But there are other aspects of emotional responding where it seems like culture has minimal influence. For example, when we're feeling an emotional response, often our heart beats really fast or we start sweating, and it seems that in those aspects of emotional responding, culture seems to play a lesser role.
Hi, are you Jenny? Yeah.
Here at the Culture and Emotion Laboratory, we can observe some of the similarities in emotional expression and some of the differences.
What I'd like you to do is fill out these questionnaires.
Jenny's ancestors are from the mountaintops of Laos, and she's referred to as Hmong American. The questionnaires measure cultural attachment, and when she's asked if she's embarrassed by Hmong culture, Jenny circles a 4, indicating she is. Jenny's more identified with American culture. European Americans will fill out a questionnaire related to American culture, and cultural attachment may influence emotional responding. The circles placed on subjects' faces allow researchers to more clearly see their muscle movements during emotion, and sensors are attached to measure pulse, sweating, and respiration levels.
Okay, this last laser that will go on you measures your breathing.
Subjects are then asked to relive or re-experience a range of emotional experiences from their past while they're observed from an adjoining room.
Okay, Jenny, can you remember a time in your life when you felt very happy?
Last weekend, it was my mom's birthday, and it was really fun because we reminisced about when we were younger.
Okay, Jenny, I want you to relive the time in your life when you went to your mom's birthday dinner.
While Jenny is reliving the experience, she begins to smile. She presses a button so the duration of happy feelings can be measured, and her physiological measures are recorded. Her facial reactions are evaluated on what's called the facial action coding system.
And this is a smile, and we would code this smile both in terms of the muscle movement that produces it as well as its intensity.
Each subject relives a range of emotions, including happiness, sadness, and disgust. In comparing physiological responses of subjects, no significant cultural influences are found. It appears that our bodies respond to emotion in a similar way, independent of culture. And self-reports of emotional intensity, as measured on a scale of 0 to 8,
7.
also seem similar across cultures. But when it comes to facial reactions, specifically smiling, there are cultural differences.
We found that European Americans smile more frequently and more intensely than Hmong Americans when they're reliving happy episodes in their lives, even though they report feeling the same amount of happiness when they're reliving that event.
In addition, Hmong Americans who are more attached to American society, like Jenny, smile more than Hmong Americans like Kristen, who are more attached to Hmong culture. Kristen's less frequent and less intense smiling does not mean she's less happy, but her facial reactions could be misinterpreted.
One of the symptoms of depression is a lack of positive affect. And you can see in the clinical literature that many clinicians are talking about the flat affect of Asian Americans that either make it hard to diagnose depression or make them think that Asian Americans are depressed. And what our research suggests is that they're not depressed, they're not withholding their emotions, they're not showing flat affect intentionally. It's that they're showing the culturally normative response for their group.
So what do you guys think about that one?
I think it's kind of cool. I like the last two, where the woman at the end didn't smile, but it didn't mean she wasn't happy. She just didn't express it. And what I kind of think is that she grasped the language, because we have a Japanese restaurant here, and I can talk to some of the waitresses, and I know they don't know what I'm saying, and they just kind of look at you and nod, and you're like, they don't know, but they smile. Their reaction is to smile. So.
What do you think that disconnects with expression when it comes to different cultures might mean for somebody in a classroom setting, let's say? Like a teacher and a student. If she does.
Well, I think culturally they've been trained in their countries how to act and react in education settings. They might not laugh, they might not smile, it might be much more serious, and they might come across not in the same way Americans and a buffoon smiling and laughing. They take it more seriously.
So what do you think that the teacher might, what kind of disconnect might exist there though, if the teacher, her expectations for the students. She's not aware of their culture and their formats of expression. Do you think that could have an effect on the child's education?
I do, because I think the teacher might think that the student's not interested, the student's not engaged, because the student's affect is flat, so the student looks like they don't care.
Right, exactly. Samantha, have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that happen?
The teacher might try to clarify a little more clearly, so maybe the student who doesn't have no reaction or expression, facial expressions, they couldn't understand, because I think that sometimes, like, when you have a, a straight face or you don't have any reactions, that may be interpreted by a teacher that she doesn't understand. Or
did you ever experience that in Wainwright? I'm growing up where you have these teachers coming in from all over the lower 48, and they've never experienced New Black culture before. They don't have an understanding. They've been through very minimal cultural training. Have you seen that disconnect growing up in such a rural community?
yes, I have. Usually the students aren't actively engaged, and they just, they don't really respond like how the teachers want the students to respond in, like a regular classroom setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's kind of different.
It is. And how do you think that affects the teacher? How do you think that affects the teacher and the student?
Well, the teacher doesn't really know, like, what to do, I think. Like, the teacher's kind of confused, like, how should I be a better teacher to explain better, or to, to get along with the students so they, so you guys are kind of connected.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's a tough situation, and I'm glad that we brought this kind of point up, because it's something that is frequent, so frequent in the education system. It's also frequent in the healthcare system. That disconnects between the provider and the patient, because the provider's not reading the patient in the appropriate way, because they're just not aware of those cultural differences in body language, in expression, in language.
I've had keep schooling in Wainwright. I've had actually 2 of them. So the teachers that come in from the lower 48, and I see the difference in the teaching, how the students react.
Right.
Compared to if they're in the classroom with a non-native teacher.
Right. Right.
They respond more, their facial expressions, you can actually see them.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is part of the difficulty of getting people from rural communities to want to be teachers or want to be healthcare providers is that they witness the workload of those people in those communities, and it's almost like their job never ends. A lot of the time in healthcare and in education, you work long hours, you work off the clock. It's not easy work. So kids are like, why would I want to sign up to do that? Why would I want to? But that's why I really like what some of the Future Teachers of the Arctic, that program, and the AHEC program, what we do for healthcare, is going out there and exposing kids young enough where they can get inspired before they're old enough to kind of comprehend the vast responsibility that's required for some of those professions in such a small community. But very good discussion, guys. I got a couple more I want to show you. We have about a half hour. So then I'm going to move on to the next chapter, which is moving into the adult social world. So this is when people start to better identify themselves and who they are, and they have a stronger sense of identity. And where is it? Okay, so one of them is this one. And this one's all about how communication looks different now and how friendship looks different now with the introduction of social media.
Today, with a cell phone, you can pretty much do it all. Talk, text, and communicate with pictures. But what about bonding with a close friend? Do you prefer social media or face-to-face contact? We asked students at UCLA.
I feel closest when we talk face to face.
When you do the text, you cannot feel like their emotions. And sometimes the text makes you confused.
Well, I suppose I'm a little old school, so I prefer the face-to-face always with my friends. I feel like it's more interpersonal. You can see their immediate reactions.
And it's bonding between friends that doctoral students Lauren Sherman and Minas Machikian, along with psychologist Patricia Greenfield, who's director of the Children's Digital Media Center, Los Angeles, are studying here at UCLA. Their research begins with undergraduate women who are assigned to 4 separate conditions in random order.
We're going to be doing video chat right here on the computer. And for this condition, I want you to pretend like you're both planning a party together for this weekend. Sound good? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes.
Rocio will be chatting with her real-life, long-term buddy, Jessica, who's in another room.
Hey girl, we should plan a party this weekend. I know, I really should. I mean, I know you already celebrated George's birthday, but we should still throw a surprise party for him.
I know he likes red velvet cake.
Yeah, and then the DJ that we know from high school, he could be the DJ, so we don't have to, spend so much money.
Yeah.
As the young women chat, a camera records their behavior, which will be coded and analyzed later. A second condition involves a face-to-face chat.
I want you both to talk a little bit about a trip that one of you had recently. But if you decide to move on to other topics, to chat about other things, that's perfectly okay. And then in about 5 minutes, I'll come back in and we'll get started on the next conversation. How was your summer?
No, it was really good. Before I started session A, I went to Mexico for like 4 to 5 days. It was really
how was
fun.
that?
I mean, it was pretty quick, but I'm glad I was able to go, just to de-stress.
Again, the camera picks up data as it does during an audio-only chat.
It would be nice to have twins, don't you think?
Oh, I think so, but that's hard.
Yeah.
And an IM condition with a 4th topic of conversation. Part of the data analysis consists of examining the video for what's called affiliation cues. Here, we're seeing another participant in the research.
I'm looking for head nods, gestures, smile, and laughter. So the combination of these cues are important in feelings of affection towards friends and commitment to close relationships. Now I have to slow down the video so I could capture the length of the gestures, where it began and where it ended.
The video data are combined with self-reports, which measure the participants' subjective sense of bonding and are collected after each condition. The results show affiliation and bonding are significantly affected by the mode of communication.
Sort of followed the number of cues, the amount of information that you could get from the other person. So in person, they reported the highest bonding, and they also showed the highest number of various cues that we know are associated with feelings of affiliation. So they were gesturing the most, they were smiling the most. When we combine all these cues together, we had the highest score.
And as shown on this graph, as participants got further away from in-person conversation and more towards the least personal, text communication, they displayed significantly fewer affiliation cues.
Well, when we see that textual communication leads to the weakest feelings of bonding, and face-to-face communication leads to the strongest feelings of bonding, and then we realize that young people are doing most of their communication through text, it seems that that means that their relationships are not as close as what they have been in the past, when most communication, if not all communication, was face-to-face.
And ultimately, that is how we evolved, is in a face-to-face context. And I do think that it's really important not to simply say, well, all sorts of digital media are bad, they're making us farther apart, they're creating distance, because they do allow for opportunities that we wouldn't otherwise have. And I think it's important to keep that in mind.
So we asked these first-year law students for a verdict.
I think that over social media and text and things, it maintains the bond, but doesn't necessarily strengthen it or establish one.
And down the road?
I think it's really important that we think about the function of social media and why young adults and teens are very interested in it, why it's compelling, thinking about the mechanisms underlying why we're so drawn to these tools is really important. It's something that I hope to see more of in the future.
Very interesting. So, what are your thoughts on this one? I thought this was kind of a really good topic to talk about because we have a wide range of age groups in our discussion too, so I thought it would be interesting to hear our thoughts on social media and friendship. You want to start, Samantha?
I want to go first. Oh, you can go.
Okay. Okay. I don't like social media. I don't like texting. I think that texting totally depersonalizes it. My daughter has a friend. They will text hundred texts a day, back and forth. I mean, anything from, I just had a piece of toast. I teased her about it, what she said to me. And I said, why, for goodness sake, don't you just invite her over and you guys talk? No, it's more fun to text. No, it's not. You have lost half of it. You can't see the facial expression. You're not really close. You're just reading words. You can't. And I find myself, if you ever texted someone and then rewrote it and thought, wow, that just sounded really rude. I didn't mean it that way.
Yes.
When I wrote it, I didn't think I sounded rude.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. I like it. No,
I don't like texting.
I understand.
And I think it's waste your time. My daughter will vacuum and then text while she's vacuuming. It's ridiculous. No. Not a good thing.
What about you, Samantha?
And when I was like her age, we didn't text. We walked around with a telephone, you know? Yeah. Same thing, but...
Yeah. What do you think? From the generation of texters.
I don't really like texting, and I don't text that much because we can't really like see their facial expressions, or sometimes when I look back on my text messages with my friends, they're like kind of bland, and they don't really have much, but like even though we're really close friends, our messages aren't really that much compared to how we communicate and talk in person.
Yeah. So this brings up a lot of emotion for me when I think of social media, because not necessarily social media as much as I will say FaceTime, or Skype, video conferencing, what we're doing, being able to see you all right now. I don't think that my family, my son and daughter, would have a relationship with their grandparents on both sides if it wasn't for technology. My husband's parents live in St. Martin in the Caribbean islands. My parents live in Pennsylvania. So technology has given the opportunity, and not texting, not Facebook, that doesn't work, but the ability to FaceTime, to get this FaceTime with you guys, for the kids to see and recognize and be able to know who Grandma is, who Nana is, who Papa is, that in and of itself I think is so valuable. So I like the way she said that at the end, that there are things that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise if it wasn't for these forms of technology. Because quite frankly, I don't think that I would still be in Alaska if it wasn't for those pieces of technology. I think that as soon as I would have had kids, I wouldn't have been able to stay anymore because I didn't want my kids to grow up without knowing their family. So I think that it is a powerful tool for certain types of bonding if it's used appropriately, if it's used in the right context. For us, for this type of a class where we have students from across the country, and we're able to sit here and look at each other and see emotion and see gestures. I talk with my hands. I think that that's a powerful thing. So it's definitely given us a lot of opportunity. But being that I was in the generation that grew up on the cusp of technology, where when I was in high school, the internet was just becoming popular. People were using things like Instant Messenger and ICQ, which was all text-based communications. Facebook came into play when I was in college. I know what it's like Laura said, to walk around the house with your phone that's still connected on a wire to the wall. I used to do that with my friends when I was in middle school. But I also evolved into being the same kid that in high school had a cell phone of my own. And then the next thing you know, I'm in college and I have Facebook. So I was really part of that shift. My generation was part of that shift. So I see a lot of value in it, but I also see a lot of value in communicating directly and being able to visit and being able to be present with friends, you know? So it's interesting. It's just interesting the three perspectives from the three different generations, really. The three different age groups of, you know, being totally growing up immersed in it, transitioning in it midway through your middle school years to high school and college and beyond, and then kind of having it come later in life where it was just this afterthought that we've been fine without it, so why do we need it now? You know what I mean? It's a really good perspective in this discussion.
I think, well, okay, we're talking texting, but talk about Facebook, because I've had this discussion with my kids. People put statuses on, okay? Think about what they're putting on. They're going to put the best. I'm so popular. I'm having so much fun. Look what I did. Look what I bought. Look where I'm going. Look what, you know, and put all that on. So then you've got another child that says, wow, I didn't do anything. I'm bored. That person looks like they have such a life. My kids have done it. Look at so-and-so and how much they have. And it's just, you know, do they look happier? You know, they're putting on their best on Facebook.
I agree. I completely agree with you. It's artificial. It's completely artificial, and it's very deceiving, and it's hard for kids to understand that.
I have friends on Facebook. I've never met them. Are they really my friends?
No.
If I met them in real life, would I like them? Maybe not. But on Facebook, we get along great. I have a friend. Amanda, do you live in Wainwright?
Hold on.
Are you in Wainwright?
Hold on. I think she got disconnected. She's calling back in.
Oh, is she in Wainwright?
She's.
Oh no.
She's from Wainwright. I don't know if she's in Wainwright right now. She's calling.
Hi. Did you hear it?
Not yet. I think she's having a hard time. Hold on. What? Is that you? Did you get in now?
Sorry.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Samantha, I was saying, do you live in Wainwright now? Are you in Wainwright? Yes. You're in Wainwright? So we were talking about texting and Facebook. I have a friend that I met that lives in Wainwright. Her name's Sarah. She's at the church there. You might know her, Bennett. Yeah, that's it. And she and I talk on Facebook all the time. We quilt. We have a lot of things in common. But in reality, if I met her face to face, I don't know how much we'd have in common, even though we do the things, but we love talking back and forth.
It's interesting. It's an interesting concept, yeah. I know what you're saying.
Like, I don't know. I've noticed that a lot of people, they feel like they feel more free to communicate through texting or, you know, through social media. Like, in person, you know, I noticed that, you know, they're kind of more shy. They tend not to, you know, express themselves as freely as they do with social media or through texting, stuff like that.
I think that's another very good point, Samantha, and I think it really does open some people up a lot more than they would be because of social anxieties in an in-person encounter. But I do agree with Laura that I think there's a certain level of social media etiquette that's now necessary to be part of like life lessons. I honestly do. I think that since it is a part of our culture now, like I am thinking about my kids. They're 4 and 2, right? They're little. I'm going to have to talk to them about social media, and I'm going to have to talk to them about, you know, the realities of it. And you don't post your life. You don't post everything that you encounter, and you don't take what you see for for reality, because it's not. It's what's visible on the outside. It's not what's going on in someone's life for real. So
it reminds me of this thing that we did at my school. We had this kind of fair, this club fair, and there were magazines.
Oh, you're getting disconnected. Wait, say it again. We heard there was a fair, and then you got broken up.
I think there was this fair at our school, and you go up to this table and you cut out pictures from magazines, and you glue them on the outside of a folder, and it expresses how you think people see yourself on the outside or how you see yourself on the outside. And then inside the folder you can post pictures and stuff like that on how you think you are on the inside.
Oh, yeah. I like it. Yeah. That's
I
exactly
like that. Because it shows how you express yourself and how you think you are on the inside.
Right. Right. And that's exactly it's a very good comparison to what Facebook and social media really are. What you put out there isn't what's always going on the inside, and it's hard to, as a kid, understand that difference, and a lot of kids just take it at face value. Oh, look at Susie, she's got a wonderful life, and she always does really fun stuff, and man, I wish that I was like that, not knowing that Susie might be really down and depressed on the inside and not really happy with herself, and that she's just putting up that front on the outside. So very good discussion.
Putting up like 10% of your life up there. You know, the other 90%, what are you?
Exactly. And we have a lot to learn still because it's so new. It's going to be one of those things where as time goes on, we learn more and more, and my kids are going to be growing up, having them in the same kind of a course in 15 years, they're going to be talking about a whole new type of interaction that people have. It's mind-boggling. I don't even want to go there. So it's just something we got to be used to and kind of be ready and prepared to roll with the punches. Let's see. Social media we did. There was one. Okay. So then we get a little bit into relationships, and I wanted to talk a little bit about love and romantic relationships. And this one's about the secret to staying in love.
So today I'm with Joan and Neil, and we're talking a little bit about marriage, being married. How long have you guys been married?
Almost 34 years in August.
And how did you meet?
At McDonald's. Yeah, we worked there. I was in high school.
Right.
And Neil was out of high school.
I worked there with her mother and her sister, and actually her mother tried to hook me up with her sister because her sister's older and a little younger than me. So, and I remember I was invited over to the house for a dinner. Remember that?
Yep.
To meet your sister, and it didn't work out that way.
So when you guys first saw each other, was it love at first sight? How did this spark start to fly?
It was for me.
Well, Neil's a little bit older than me. I was 16. He was 21.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, I don't know, I didn't think like that at the time, but it happened quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Then I fell in love with him.
Right. And her father didn't like that idea because he thought I was after only one thing.
Okay.
And he was.
And it was, yeah.
No, that's not true. No, we're just kidding.
I always remind her.
So then, how long were you together before, did you know pretty quickly into dating that this was it? This is the person you wanted to spend?
Within a year,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yep.
We met, she was 16, we were married, she was 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about the wedding. What do you remember about the wedding?
Oh, we had a big wedding.
Big, yeah.
Big, traditional.
It was at Leonard's of Great Neck, which is the same place, you remember see The Sopranos, they had that big wedding? The same place, the same pool.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And we had almost 300 people.
And then over the years, so now you're coming up on your 34th wedding anniversary. You've got how many kids now?
3.
3 kids. One is married, the other one's about to get married.
Yeah.
Right.
And now you're grandparents.
Yeah.
And so tell me about how love changes from that couple that started dating in McDonald's to 34 years later.
Well, you know, at the beginning, when we first decided to have children, you know, most of our focus was on our children. We tried to always find time for ourselves as a couple, but we came from New York, we transplanted to Connecticut, so we didn't have a lot of family around us. You know, they would come up occasionally on weekends, or we would go down there. So our biggest thing was, like, maybe once a year we'd try to get away for a weekend. My parents would come up, or his parents would come up. But we didn't do a lot of going out by ourselves on a day-to-day basis.
We almost never went out to eat. We never had money, and it was never an argument. We had other arguments, but that wasn't one of it. We never argued over money. because we still don't have one. So.
So what are your arguments about?
Raising the kids.
Yeah, raising the kids.
How to raise the kids.
Yeah. We have a different perspective on discipline, and we had to come to terms on that.
Right.
Well, one of the challenges of a long-term relationship is working out how you've been raised and some of the influences and how your parents treated you and disciplined you, and then two people coming together and trying to negotiate all of that. So how have you found your experience of, those family influences?
Well, I definitely am a product of my environment, and my household was very laid back. There wasn't much in the way of real structure and rules, and that's the way I knew how to raise my kids.
I had a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Not that they were very strict with me, but I thought there should be some continuity, and there was none. So I came to terms with it by allowing her to become the parent, and I became the assistant parent. So I would go to the parent and ask what I should do next.
And how did that work?
Not well.
It was worse for Neil than for me,
Yeah.
because it just went against his grain to be as easygoing as I was.
And she says the kids turned out good. They all did. No complaints about that. But we had some issues during,
Yeah, it made it a little
made it tougher to live.
difficult. It did. I have to admit that looking back now, I just said, I was 23 when I had my first daughter. That's what I knew. I could only do what I felt I could do, and we did okay though.
Right. It's over.
What advice do you have for couples today? There's a lot of students in college, and college is a much different experience today than it was several years ago. But I mean, the casual sex on college campuses and relationships, there's less dating on college campuses today. And so if you were talking to a group of college students about relationships and how to make love last, what kind of advice do you think you'd give them?
You have to have respect for each other. You have to find common interests sometimes. I mean, I wasn't, when I first met Neil, I had never been camping, and something small, something that he really loved. And I hesitated about doing it, but it was something he wanted to do. And then we shared that interest together. We actually did it with our kids. We took them camping. I don't know, we just...
We did a lot of things together, actually. We went back to college later on in life when we had 3 kids together.
Yeah, we took classes together.
And we got a degree together like that in computers.
Yeah.
How does sex change in a relationship long term? Is it still good?
Yes.
Yeah. Not as often, but... And mostly because we're tired, I think.
We have early jobs, early morning jobs.
Right.
Neil starts like 5:30 and I start at 6, so evening is, wind down time. But, I've tricked him and taken him away for a weekend, and that was,
It's been a while since we've done that.
Yeah, but we did that over the years. We made special time for ourselves.
It sounds like that's one of the biggest keys to the success of your relationship.
Yeah.
Making time for each other.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think of this one? This is another one where it's different generational views on some of these things. I will say what they said about parenting has been definitely the biggest struggle for my relationship with my husband. We have very different views on discipline. Extremely different views. Which, because there's such extreme different views, we always overcompensate for the other. So I'm more strict, and it tends to make me feel like I have to be even more strict because he's so laid back, and he's laid back, and he feels I'm too strict, so it makes him act even more laid back to compensate for the fact that I'm so strict. So we just keep bumping heads on this, and they're young, and we're still new at this, but I will agree with them. That's been one of the biggest causes of frustration. And I also agree with what they said about just the children being the forefront and not finding enough time for yourself, for each other. I think that those are huge struggles in marriage once children come into the picture. What would you say, Laura, having such a tribe of children of your own?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, having 11 kids,
can't
A lot
even
of times, is
imagine.
that good not that time? Yeah. Now, like, our arguments are over the kids. You know, like, we argue about, you know, and he's laid back, but I used to be kind of tied terms. Like, in your relationship, in a few years, it could change where you're laid back and he's more strict. So, don't say that forever you're going to be the one that's strict, because I don't think it'll stay.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
can see
for
that.
me, it hasn't really stayed that way. If we don't make time, like, for example, tonight, we were going to go to Patty Murphy's, which is a little Irish pub in town, and go listen to some music. But then we've got kids that want to go to the roller rink, so we have to make compromise. And so I said, okay, guys, there's nothing good playing. You know, the band's not very good tonight, so we'll take you to the roller rink tonight. Tomorrow night, guys, don't even talk to me. I get tomorrow. So we make deals now. So we'll skate with them tonight, and then, you know, but my husband's a baby. So can you always forget me? I don't matter to you. The kids are more important than I am. So that's just whatever. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to look forward to, Samantha. No, it's just, not to make it sound terrible, it's just, it's a total shift, and it's part of these lifespan development stages and milestones we're talking about. Here you are, we just talked about identity development at the beginning, when we first started, right? We're talking all about me and figuring me out, and as soon as you do that, and it almost happens that way a lot of the time, when you've got yourself figured out and you're confident in who you are, you find someone that you want to be with who has figured it out too. And then you've got this whole new thing together, and it's a whole new discovery, and it's a whole new understanding. And then you add those kids to the mix, and she's got to call on again. But that's what I want you all to grasp out of your lifespan development case study, out of your final project, is use that person's life to show how they get through these things, and how everyone, we're all different, right? But we're all facing these similar challenges and struggles and barriers, and we all find our own way through, you know? So, anyway, we're coming up on 1 o'clock, so, and it's okay. And you know I have it recorded, so if you ever feel the need, I'm going to post them like I usually do on our site as soon as I get a chance to buffer it and upload it and do all that good stuff. But any other last questions to kind of wrap up? I think we had a really good discussion today.
I think good. Samantha, how old are you? Are you 16? How old?
She's 16.
16. Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah.
You know what? I admire your life so much, and my kids in this whole school situation. We have learned so much, and you're so fortunate to live where you live. So 16, that is really neat.
Yeah, she's an inspiration to a lot of her students around her, because
I mean, you're young.
Yeah, and she wants to take college courses.
Really are.
She wants to. That's what I was trying to tell you guys at the beginning. The fact that we have high school students that are signed up for this course, and they're looking ahead, and they're making these decisions. You guys are an inspiration, because when I was 16, I didn't know what the heck was going on.
You're truly amazing.
Yes, you really are.
Really amazing.
All of you guys are that are taking this course. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you all are learning a lot. So just to make sure I got this right, Samantha, you won't be on next week?
I don't think I will be.
Okay, good. I'm just going to make a note.
If I have time.
Okay, and as always, if you have any questions about any of the assignments, let me know. And I'll get this up and posted probably before the end of the day.
Okay.
All right, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.